Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. I'm going to do a series of videos on processing images for microstock photography purposes. And in this first video, I wanted to talk about noise and sharpening to get that perfect image without over processing and getting your image rejected. So I'm going to just jump onto the computer right now. I have a couple of photos open, and before I start, I should say that my philosophy with processing images for microstock is always to get the right balance between bulk editing and individual photo retouching. And so for me, the noise and sharpening is a bulk editing processing activity that I do when I go out and do a shoot. Even if I have 200 files, I'll do this all at once through one application of noise and sharpening, at least as a base layer. So I'm just opening Lightroom here. So this is a photograph of the Mendenhall Glacier in Juneau, and I'm down here in the details section. And before I start, I should say that applying noise reduction often depends on two sort of things. One is your camera and the type of sensor you have, and the second is how much processing you've done in your basic corrections tab. If you've opened up the highlights and opened up the shadows all the way, that might reintroduce noise over and above what your sensor normally gives you. I use a Nikon Z mirrorless camera, a Z6, and it's a pretty low noise sensor, so generally it's not a problem. That said, I do noise reduction and I do sharpening. Now, the first thing to probably start with is the 100 rule. Basically, whatever noise level you apply to your image, if 20 works for you, then you would sharpen to 80, and that would basically give you a image that's got the noise taken out, but then because removing the noise tends to sort of blur or sort of squish the details a bit, then you would add sharpening to sort of counteract that noise effect. And the 100 rule is basically a good system to get you a noise-free image that's also sharp. Now, if you're 30, then you drop the sharpening down to 70. So that's basically the 100 rule. And then with Lightroom, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're only sharpening those parts of the image that you want sharpened. So not the sky, potentially not the water. Other details don't need to be sharpened. So then you go to the masking tool, hit Alt on your keyboard, the Mac. I think maybe Alt PC, but I'm not really sure. Alt on a Mac, and then you can just hold down the Alt key, slide the cursor on the masking to the right, and this blacks everything that's now black is not being sharpened by Lightroom. So you sort of drop that down, and you can see that none of this sky now is being masked. So then you basically have an image that's sharpened in the areas where you want sharpened, and not sharpened in the areas that you don't. And you can do that also in other ways by using a mask of various types to sort of eliminate sharpening or add sharpening in various areas. Now, the 100 rule is sort of a starting point for understanding sharpening and noise reduction for microstock image processing, but as I said, I tend to like to do bulk. So with my camera, what I find is that if I put my noise reduction at 20 and my sharpening at about 55, that's all that I really need to do. Then I put my masking down lower, usually in the 30 range, sometimes a little less, and I will then just sync these across all the images. So I typically use noise reduction between 20 and 25 and sharpening between 50 and 60 with a masking below 30 but above 20. and I apply that to all the images that I've taken on that specific shoot. And that way I don't have to worry about sharpening or doing noise reduction in each one, unless I think that I do want to tweak an image here and there. And so it creates the base level, and then I can sort of tweak here and there as I move along, if and only if I need to do that tweaking. Now, the reason why I don't always employ the 100 rule and sharpen right up to, say, 80 if I'm using 20% noise reduction or 20 noise reduction is because I often like to use a couple of other tools that also sort of are like sharpening, that you have to think about, and sometimes also add in a little bit of noise, and that's the texture slider and the clarity slider and the dehaze slider. So I do apply these settings individually. I never bulk process using any of these three settings. So by sharpening only in the sort of 50 to 60 range, this gives me a little bit of leeway to add some clarity to the image where I want it, some texture to the image where I want it. So if I wanted to add clarity to this glacier, then I would basically use a brush and I would add in, a bunch of clarity that way. And that way I don't risk over sharpening or adding too much processing into the image that will cause pixelation or create artifacting or do other things that will cause the stock reviewers to reject an image. So that is basically my approach to noise reduction and sharpening for microstock images. Hope this was helpful, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks.